everybody and everybody's faces. It's been a little while since we've seen everybody live here. First of all, the best part of the meeting is going to be our pledge, and I'm going to have Principal Lemos introduce our pledge leader for tonight.
Good evening.
Good evening.
This is Jane. Do you want to tell them who you are?
I'm Jane.
And she is going to be leading us this evening in the pledge. She's a kindergartner at Santa Cruz Gardens. So what can you say first?
Please stand. Place your right hand on your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And now we will read the mission statement.
Staff, students, parents, and the community share the responsibility for each child's success. We are committed to
Ensuring
that each student develops the skills and confidence for lifelong
achievement
achievement and is prepared to make a positive contribution to our world. Thank you.
Good job. Thank you, Jane. Guess what? You have your copy, but I'm going to read your certificate that I have for you. And
Okay.
it's really great. Jane is a very curious and motivated student. She loves to participate in class discussions and is so happy to be in person learning in kindergarten. She is kind and caring friend and always the first person to lend a helping hand to her peers and her teacher, Mrs. Johnson. She just published 2 books in kindergarten, How to Play and How to Love. Jane wants to grow up to be a chef or a doctor and knows that she needs to work hard in school to be able to do that. Jane embodies what it means to be a Santa Cruz Gardens Dolphin, and we couldn't be more proud of her. Oh, that's well written. Hear about the 2 books.
Well, how to love is you find a friend, you care, you play, and then you have fun.
That sounds great.
And then how to play. Invite your friends, grab your toy, put them in the pool, and then play.
You know what? That is great. That is the way we should walk every day too. And I like that. I really, really like that. And you want to be a chef as well and a doctor, but a chef, you like to cook?
Well, I want to earn a Tesla, and because it has a farting horn and I really want a Tesla. So I think since I love cooking the most, I think I'll be a chef for now.
That's great. And other board members, do you have any questions or comments for Jane?
Well, my question was,
Okay.
so how do you take care of your pet? That's my real question.
That's a great question.
Okay.
See what they say.
Well,
Right around.
yeah, well, I have a dog and she came all the way from India. So she's from far, far away. And she needs to get out and run and play. So we're at the beach every morning and before I came here and ran with her. So she has a lot of energy, but her type of dog, she likes to sleep too. So she has energy and she sleeps. And I have 2 cats also. And I have a 3-legged cat that thinks it's a dog. So, but they get a lot of love.
Well, was your cat hurt when they had 3 legs? Because I think one of them was hurt.
Yeah, she was hit by a car when she was a kitten. So, but she is the most feisty cat I've ever known.
Do you take care of her?
Oh, definitely. She doesn't need taken care of, but she's a snuggler too. At 2 in the morning, she'll snuggle your face. I'm sure the other board members, do you have any pets or? We could talk all night. This is great.
Can I ask a question? Can I share something?
We'll ask
I
Jane
just-
first.
I want to share that hearing about your books and then your question about pets made me really think about how the pets I've had in my life have taught me how to play and how to love. So those are lessons I've had with my pets. And in my family, I have 3 kids, so my kids are old enough to help take care of our pets, which is a special part of our family. But my question for you, if you don't mind answering, is now that you're back at in-person school, where's your favorite place to be at school?
At the snack table.
Okay.
Because I love snacks. My mom gave me 2 chocolate chips, cookies for snack and some cheeses. And that's it.
Sounds good. Thank you.
And I have something to share to you guys. So I have a favorite lunchbox and it's pink and purple.
Cool.
Do you have any questions?
Board Members? Yeah, Phil, go ahead.
Yeah, would you like to, at some point in time, perform on this stage?
Yes.
I think that's a definite yes. Jane, I know you like to talk in the mic, right? Yeah. Maybe you have your own talk show one of these days too.
Well, I love dancing, so I would guess
Perfect.
I would have a dancing show and I'll play the kids about kids music and then I'll dance and show you my dancing skills. Because I can do some weird dancing, but it's kind of cool. Like I do some dancing to get myself up or down.
Okay,
Any more questions?
I think you covered them all, Jane, and thank you. And you know what, Jane, we are all wearing masks, but we all have big smiles on our face because you came in here.
Yeah.
You're awesome, Jane, and stay awesome,
Yeah.
okay? And before we move on to the roll call, I am going to have a brief presentation here. Today is Administrative Assistant Day, and we like to say thank you to Linda. I was going to say Jane. And we'd like to thank you for all the work that you have done for the board, for the superintendent, assistant superintendents, and and for chasing people like me down for, things that need to get done and signed. And it's not an easy task, and we really appreciate everything that you have done.
Well, thank you so much. Thank
It's just a big thank you. Anybody has anything else to say?
We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Aw. That's beautiful. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Linda.
Thank you, Linda, for everything you've done and do, and will continue to do. All right, so let's move on to roll call.
Trustee Rodriguez,
I am here.
trustee Jackson Miller,
Here.
trustee Izan Gonzalez. Here. Trustee Friedman,
Present.
trustee Donley.
Present. And then next item is a motion to adopt the agenda as it stands. Is there a motion on the floor?
Board President, could I please make a note of an item on the consent agenda?
Oh, you want to do it now?
Is that okay?
Okay, sure.
Okay,
Yeah,
so on page 19,
Okay,
it is a second reading of a board policy that still includes italicized language, some of the italicized words from the first reading that were not changed back. And so just like to make a note that those italicized words will be changed back to regular font. That was on page 19 of the docket. And I
okay.
think there is one from business as well.
Yes, on the consent agenda, the Excel spreadsheet that goes along with the obsolete equipment that we are disposing of this evening, there's a dollar figure at the bottom of the Excel spreadsheet that says $8,000. That is incorrect. It was left there incorrectly from the last time we used the page. Sorry. It's zero value.
Okay. So with those two items that I'm not going to repeat, the changes to the consent agenda that is part of the agenda, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
I'll make
Okay.
a motion, Carolyn.
Second?
I'll second.
Amanda, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda with the changes noted at the previous motion? Bill first,
I move.
Jen second, okay. I keep wanting to say Jane, I don't know.
I see your eyes on me, so
That's cool.
yeah.
I know, yeah. Okay, all in favor? Aye. Okay. Okay, public communications, do we have any that are virtual?
I don't have anything on text.
I apologize. 1 second. I'm bringing up the website. Nothing on email.
Very good, then we have no public communications. With that, let's move on to standing reports, and we'll start with the assistant superintendents, Michelle.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. I
That's
lost
fine.
the document. Okay.
Well, yeah, you go, yeah, go ahead, yeah.
All right, well, I am happy to announce that we are currently working on the LCAP, and it is quite an immersive set of circumstances that lead us to the work of LCAP this year, which we have another item on the docket, which we'll be talking about a little bit later. But we do have a number of other things that are happening in the ed services world, which are pretty exciting. We are very excited to talk about our summer school program this year. We have finalize the identification of students, the identification of curriculum, the identification of assessment. We've posted for staffing. We've started interviews for staffing. Currently, we have 25 certificated members who are interested in teaching in our summer school program that will run at each of our schools with a minimum of 12 students per grade per school at each site. So we're really excited about that. The planning team is doing an amazing job. The invitations and registrations will go out tomorrow. And the last piece of the summer program that's so exciting is that we're partnering with the city of Capitola potentially, and they'll be talking about that at their next board meeting. So that would be great to have a tandem program for our families this summer. We are working on rebuilding and reimagining Opal Cliffs, and you'll hear a little bit about that later tonight with Suzanne and Lori. Just so you know, we're going to be presenting that from 3 different locations today, from the podium, from home, and from here. So we're fingers crossed that presentation will go well tonight. We've recently secured a partnership with the Santa Cruz and Silicon Valley New Teacher Project. And the 2 main presenters of those who will be doing monthly trainings for our site principal teams on equity, social justice, and how to bring that into the leadership and education in our schools with culturally relevant instruction. So really excited about that, and we get them all to ourselves. So that's wonderful. As of this week, I've been working with the SAGE program at Santa Cruz Gardens. SAGE is the new acronym for what they are going to be naming their science integration dimension of their program. So it's science and gardening education, and they'll be sending out some communications to parents as early as tomorrow, which is Earth Day. So that's going to be really great. And then an additional communication will go out to our transitional kindergarten families who will be on that campus, so they'll be able to see what's going to happen over the next 3 years, along with the rest of the families who are in attendance there. And then also too, we're just looking at enhancing our pathways of integration with the arts. And so we always do reimagine the way that things like that look in schools. Today, we had the fortune of talking about what that might look like in all of our schools next year without an impact on our budget. So lots of great things happening in the ed services world. I'm happy to be here with all of you tonight. Yes.
I just couldn't hear one word you said. I think you said the arts. Is that what you just were referring to? Okay.
Yes.
I didn't want to get my hopes up if that's the word that I heard.
Okay, great.
That's good. I mean,
Get your
if I
hopes
didn't
up.
hear that word,
We're all very excited.
I'm grateful to hear that word. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Yes, too, very excited to be here tonight and this wonderful setup, and got a big shout out to our IT department, George and Colin and Marla, and our special guest behind the magic curtain, Mark Lewis, who's helping us out this evening with all our tech issues. So thank you guys so much. I had the opportunity to meet with Climate Tech a few weeks back, and we took, or I shouldn't say we, Steve and Craig Feeney toured with the team from Climate Tech, each of our school sites, and went through and did a real thorough walkthrough of all of our HVAC systems, our electrical, solar, water distribution, anything that could possibly save us money in the future out of our general fund that we can upgrade now. So they're putting together a proposal for us on next steps and what that would look like. And I'm sure you can imagine the number one was HVAC. I mean, that's just something right now that's prevalent to everyone. And also we have schools that are extraordinarily aging that need a little life pumped in them in their HVAC systems. So really excited to have more for you guys on that at our next board meeting. Also, as Jessica had said, we had the opportunity to meet with Nikki from the City of Capitola to talk about a camp program in conjunction with our summer program. I'm so thankful for our partnership with the City of Capitola and their ability to not only look at Capitola and what they can do for New Brighton, but what they can look for all of our district, for all of our schools in the district. As it seems like I've been doing it for the last 14 months, I'm preparing for another audit. I'm going to be presenting the audit to you guys later this evening for 1920 because of the extension. The audits got pushed way back, but we are beginning next week our audit for the current year. So good times with the audit. We started working on budget development and COE training as it is the time of year for all things LCAP and budget. So Jessica and I are working on those together, which really looking forward to. I'm looking forward to doing that this year. A year ago, The same time a year ago was a lot different situation for our district, and by no means is the district in a financial windfall, but with the federal and state stimulus monies, it has put our district in a better position in the current year and are held harmless. So this year doing budget development is not with a heavy heart. So it's just with a light heart. We've begun the continuation of replacing our projectors in our schools. Our goal has always been to put TVs like the new classrooms have in all of our classrooms throughout the district. And so we've started at New Brighton and we're moving through New Brighton. They've got several classrooms already going. So we'll complete that project hopefully by the end of the school year. Our biggest challenge is Soquel Elementary. That site and the existing buildings are, because of their age and their configuration, it's really difficult to try to get some of those TVs mounted on the wall. So we're working with IT, and maintenance is working together on that actually. This weekend, Friday, we're having 672 desks delivered to New Brighton for their new furniture integration. So we have a team coming through, and we have a team coming through that's going to help with probably about 15 people from our district that are going to be here to help dismantle and put together all of the 672 desks that need to be put together and deployed to the classrooms here. So we're cross fingers. All is going to go like clockwork because I have a clipboard. And finally, I had the opportunity for our next fiscal prioritization team meeting. Was great. Phil was there with us, and Jen was unable to make it, but we had our union presidents and our district representation, and I thought it was a great meeting. We talked a lot about our fiscal future and what our funding will look like, our new funding, and prioritizing out our facility upgrades. So that is my report.
Okay, great. Scott.
Lot going on in business and ed services, that's for sure. So a few things I'll piggyback on. I just want to say thank you to the board for expressing their gratitude, to my assistant Linda, to our assistant. Linda, you make a miracle happen every 2 weeks for these board meetings, publishing hundreds of pages and getting them all right. So, and I'll just share one thing that I really appreciate about Linda is her gentle reminders. And so if it's for a board docket and you get a gentle reminder for Linda, that means get on point. You have board docket or do. So, but you have a great way of doing that very graciously. So thanks for all you do. I'd also like to say thank you to the whole team that put this event together. No small task, as you can tell. But you know, really all I said is we want to hold our first board meeting in person again, but it has to be streamed, and the folks just made it happen, and it took a lot of work and a lot of energy. And I appreciate the board for willing to do this, you know, because I think all of us kind of found our groove on Zoom, and it would have been easy to sit in the comfort of our home and do it. But you know, our schools are going back in person, and so I appreciate you stepping up in this capacity and experiencing a little bit of hybrid as a team here. So thank you. I also want to express my gratitude to the presidents of the elementary home and school clubs. Jessica mentioned a little bit about you know, what we're trying to make happen with the arts, and some of that initiative came from their willingness and desire to work together as the 3 elementary home and school club presidents. Some of them have co-presidents, so it's more than just 3 people. But it was just really refreshing that the 3 groups want to come together and pool resources and energy and efforts to try to make the best experiences as possible for the students in the whole district, and not just thinking about the slice of the population at their school. I just thought that was pretty amazing, and it happened, you know, totally through their initiative, not through something we asked about. All of my other items tonight will be mentioned on items that are already on the agenda, including our work with SEA and CSEA. So that's all for me for now. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we have CSEA here or to report.
I think that they are online. Is that correct, George?
I'm not seeing them.
You say SEA or CSEA?
Well, let's start with CSEA.
There's no CSEA representative.
Okay,
Okay, what about SEA?
Johan is here.
Oh, okay.
There he is.
Yeah,
Oh,
good evening, good evening, board. Thank you for allowing the flexibility for me to still log in virtually and look forward to being in person with you guys at some point soon for board meetings. I've got just a brief statement. This just comes from the desk of Gordon, and things are going pretty well. So I'll just go ahead and read that verbatim. SEA met last week on Monday, and among other things, we discussed the work of the Racial Justice Task Force, the full reopening plan, and concerns of student services staff. We were grateful, as always, to Scott, Michelle, and Jessica for joining us, as they always do. We discussed with them the plan for full reopening and the consequences of our county's move to the orange tier. We're very happy to hear Scott's plan to compensate staff for unused personal business days, as well as the district's decision to request a higher stipend for the extended school year staff, in line with the pay increase for other summer program teachers. Many SEA members have expressed feeling very hopeful about the current direction of the COVID-19 pandemic in our county. And that's all I've got from SEA.
all right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you, thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, items from trustees. When you speak, please raise your hand. And so we could start with whoever wants to jump in. If not, I'll start then at the end with Phil.
I won.
Yay.
So I want to thank the district leadership for getting the band back together again. It's been a while since we had a live gig, and so, yay. And also thank leadership for the FPT meeting. So no change to what's going to happen possibly in the future. Not that rosy, but you know, we kind of have to hang in there. The exciting part though is that while we're also operating in like the last month, 3 different learning schedules, sometimes 2 different ones at the same time, they've also, our leadership has also been able to look at what we need to do to our infrastructure. And these are things that you're not going to see. It's the wiring, it's the HVAC and stuff like that, but it has to be done. And so I'm so excited in the future to hear Michelle talk about mini splits. And that's it for me.
Thank you, Phil. Amanda?
I don't have anything to report, just glad to see you all in person, and thank you to everyone for making this happen. And again, just continuing to work through all of the challenges of this past year while also looking forward into the future, and the planning for the future of this district is really exciting. And I'm really thrilled to be able to hear about it in this format. So thank you.
All right, thank you, Amanda. Jen?
Yeah, I just want to comment on a thread that I've noticed of hope that has been brought up by Johan and also Jessica and Michelle and Scott with what we're doing right now and then what we're going to do in the future. And it is really light and uplifting. And one thing that we've really learned through this experience is that our community has come together in ways that maybe we haven't done before. And I'm excited about all these partnerships that you're talking about. The arts would be that amazing dream that would be phenomenal to come to fruition. And just working towards the greater good and seeing my children really happy to be in school. You know, it feels there's a lot of work going on, and I want to highlight that there's a lot of behind the scene work. It's very, very hard to make all this happen, but it feels light and hopeful. And so just thank you all. And Linda, thank you always for your gentle reminders. Yeah, that's true. I needed a few of those.
Thank you, Jen. Phil?
Well, thanks everyone who contributed to putting this together. It's really nice to see everyone in person. It's very exciting, and having the kids back in school and seeing how smoothly everything has been going. And I know there's been so much work behind the scenes. So thank you for everyone who's been a part of that. And then just quickly, I'll just mention the meetings that I've attended. So I attended the dual language instruction leadership meeting, the Science and Garden Committee meeting, the Racial Justice Task Force, and also before the spring break, the CABE conference, which is the California Association for Bilingual Education Conference. And there was just a lot of interesting lectures, a lot of hopeful information, and it was a very interesting conference to attend. So thanks God for letting me participate in that. That's it from me.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I'd like to mirror, thank you for the group that put this together. It's kind of like Let It Be, you know, the Beatles when they're in the studio session, but I think they had more wires, huh? But yeah, thank you. I see the wires running around. You hit all the right spaces and everything, and yeah, and especially to the staff with our students back in class and the planning and everything that it took to have this happen. I'm hearing a lot of positive feedback on students being back in school, and from parents saying their kids are really happy to be back in school. Even the ones who, I don't want to go to school, but now they're glad they're in school. So when it happens, it happens. Otherwise, I have no meetings to report out on. And with that, we could move on. Let's move on to our presentation, 5A, regarding Opal Cliffs home-based learning model, and that's Jessica.
All right, well, thank you to the board, and I'd like to start by thanking the board continuously for allowing our schools to highlight where they are in the educational process, and with Opal Cliffs being our first alternative school in the district and being a home-based learning program, it's a little bit of a different presentation, and as promised earlier, it will be a little bit more complicated. We have one of our staff who's here who will be speaking at the podium, and I'll introduce her in just a minute, but go ahead and walk up if you don't mind. We also will have joining us through Zoom, Lori Kearney, and then I will be presenting from here tonight. We also have some links to videos that we hope will upload that you'll be able to see well, that our community will be able to see well. But of course, you want to be the first to try all these new media in this time. So we'll get started. Tonight is a very special night for Opal Cliffs. It's the first time we're presenting publicly about our home-based learning program. And I'd like to introduce our first staff member hired for the program, and that's Suzanne Denham.
Hello.
Hello.
And thanks for letting us try all this out too. Thank you. And thank you, Jessica, for letting us throw it at you at the last minute that we are going multimedia.
Well, you know, if it's not a challenge, it's not fun. And then we should have online or through Zoom, Lori Kearney, and I can see her at home, so hopefully you can see her as well. Our second staff member to Opal Cliffs as we started, an amazing teacher as well. And then tonight we do not have Lori Struckmeyer, but she is our office manager and very excited to be participating in the Opal Cliffs program and does send us general reminders as well. And then I am the administrator overseeing the Opal Cliffs program, and I'm very proud to be serving in that capacity this year. So as you know, the background for Opal Cliffs has been an interesting one. We can go to the next slide. I don't know if he's doing the slides. Let's see. Okay. But in the fall of 2019, we talked about some adjustments to what was Opal Cliffs in a transitional kindergarten program. And we had some pre-meetings, we had some board meetings, and we really talked about what our community needed from us. The Santa Cruz Gardens community needed some students, and we needed to be able to offer our community maybe something different in terms of alternative education. And with the board support, we really started to make those conversations a reality. And then in the spring of 2020, the home-based learning model was born. It was born in a time of pandemic, somewhat out of necessity, but also out of interest. At that time, we started our staffing when we brought in Suzanne, who was all too perfect of a fit to start a home-based learning program completely from scratch. And then very quickly finding another right fit, and that was Lori Kearney. So we were really happy to have them start to plan what the school would look like, thinking that we would be all going back to school and that Opal Cliffs having a home-based learning model would be very different. Well, as it turns out, distance learning was the way we entered school, so we had to recalibrate our thinking in 2 weeks' time, just as all of our teachers in the district did. And so in the course of that year, we found that there were some families where it was a great fit and some that wasn't as much of a fit. But in the course of that time, we were able to reimagine what Opal Cliffs could look like and are in that process right now. And we'll be talking a little bit about that later tonight. So our mission and vision were created when the school was born with the community that we had. And we had imagined that we would have 12 families. And as it turns out, we had nearly 60 families. And we had nearly 60 families who had a lot to tell us about what they had hoped for their kids. And what they really hoped for was a flexible schedule, flexible activities, and for all of those learning plans to mirror the skills and the desires of the family. And none of those looked the same. And so really we created an individualized learning model, not just a home-based learning model at that time. Which is where our vision came in. We really wanted every student to be able to get what they needed and their family to get what they needed through the program. Was born our partnership and our commitment to that partnership. So we have had a great start. And Suzanne,
Take it away from here.
take it away.
Can you hear me? I mean, I don't know if
Yes.
I'm mic'd or not. I can't tell. So I'm going to talk a little about the goals for the program. And as Jessica mentioned that, you know, our big overarching goals were really to provide an alternative form of instruction for families who wanted something that was a little different, that allowed for flexibility in curriculum as well as their schedule. So those were a couple of the big priorities, and where the family would be at the core of the design and implementation of the instruction. So they are the primary teacher, the family is. However, they work in collaboration with either Lori or myself, who are credentialed teachers, to help them make sure that they're staying on track with Common Core standards and get resources, instructional strategies, and ideas for teaching. And we also want to make sure that we helped families have some connection to each other in some ways. So we built some community. And both Lori and I have had a lot of experience with social emotional learning. That was my last 2 years. I got to do that gig, which was fantastic. And we want to keep that going too. So we want to make sure they had some social emotional learning embedded in it, in this all new terrain, not only the pandemic, but also now the families that we're trying to do their own instruction as well. And we are also hoping maybe we'll attract other students to our district, that we have an alternative approach that's a little bit different from everyone else in the county. Those are kind of our big goals. And then, so who did we get? Who were the families that came to us? So we got a variety of families came to us for a variety of reasons, but one is that they wanted a continuous, stable learning environment and didn't want any of the anxiety or worry or any, feeling about not knowing if they were going to go to hybrid or if they're going to go to distance learning or back and forth or to in-person. So they wanted a continuous learning experience. They preferred not to have their child on the computer for instruction. They maybe were challenged as the adult in the family to be able to be with their child due to their job or other responsibilities they had. Some of them had health concerns for their child or for someone else in the family. And some of them just wanted to take advantage of this opportunity to be supported in using our local resources like UCSC, or we've had kids that go to the river a lot, San Lorenzo River, or doing water cycle this week, or just other resources, the Arboretum, Nicene Marks. People have used all kinds of our local resources, and families have really enjoyed, it sounds like, taking advantage of that. And for some kids, families said that the traditional school wasn't a good fit for their child, and this was something different that they were looking for. So as Jessica said, we have served about 60 kids this year, so there's quite a little variety. So Lori was going to introduce, Lori, can you hear it? Was going to introduce something, a video for us, George. I have to say that to you. So, Lori, did you want to, or can you speak, or?
Yes, I was just waiting for the slide, but I can.
I will do that. Just let me know.
Okay. Thanks for letting me Zoom from home. Oops. Okay. So I'm introducing our third grader, Xander Brown, and his mom, Amelia. They're going to be talking about their experience with being part of Opal Cliffs while dad, Alex, holds the camera. Xander and his younger brother, first grader Ezra, has been able to take full advantage, like Suzanne said, of living on the Central Coast by taking science-related field trips to places like Ano Nuevo, Moss Landing, and Monterey. They bring their science journals and they write impressive essays about what they learned. And Xander is quite a gifted writer and speaker. He has videotaped himself and given me live presentations of his wonderful essays, and much of them are based on the field trips that they take. Here they are.
Don't think we have access.
Let's try one more, Lily. Not me. Well, they are quite adorable.
I'd love for everyone to be able to see them. I've got them on my screen.
I know, I can put them on my laptop, but I don't know if you can see them, but if, George,
Is it okay to show it this way?
Yeah.
then can we just put that in front of the camera? Put the video on one of our computers to the camera?
You want to just put it on the table right there and we'll just go with it?
Yeah, if you just press the button.
Yeah, just put it on the, and then we'll just.
Well, you can't put it on the table. Well, no, because the cameras are on top of the TV. Yes.
No, but I think I might be able to play it from here. I'm gonna give this a try. Okay, there's my screen. Move back. Move a little bit ahead of my agenda. Now everybody knows that.
Oh, you read the ending first?
Yeah.
Oh,
let's just
that's already the book,
see if
yeah.
it was a good ending. or
Always
not.
at the end first.
Sorry for the scrolling here. That done?
We've got a few.
Right there and see if that's. Play. I thought that was a link. Sorry.
We'll just.
Should be able to airplay it. Just here, I'm gonna go off there. Can I see it, Suzanne?
Suzanne.
Suzanne, can I see it? And I think we can just airplay from that computer. Thank you, everybody, for your patience.
I'm gonna stretch for a minute while we, if you don't mind. If Lori can give access to George
Here,
to this, then he can try to. Oh, there you go.
I think we're gonna have it right here for short term. I just wanted to hog all the attention.
Now, if anyone's gonna save the day, it should be you.
Right?
There we go.
All right, now we've got something. So I think if I go to present mode. Here we go.
It's been very rewarding to teach my children where to focus.
Very.
I think that's it, right? It's pretty
Yeah,
short.
it's over.
Oh, okay.
He said it all.
They're very.
Oops.
Okay, now can we go back? We can go on from here? Okay.
If that's okay, I'll be your clicker.
You'll be the clicker? All right, that's great. So the individualized learning plan is what each student has an individualized learning plan that we set up with them. And we wanted to tell you a little bit about that it's equity driven, that each student is met where they're at. So it's a little, well, it's exactly where they're at. So all the curriculum is based on where they are at and meets their needs or the family's needs. It's also, we wanted to make sure that the curriculum was standards based. So everyone had access to district student textbooks this year. Some families have acquired online curriculum. Some families have acquired other types of homeschooling curriculum. So they chose their own pathway. Some of them got comprehensive curriculums that covered all the subject areas, and some kind of pick and choose and create their own units out of different things. Like there are families that use Khan Academy for backup for math, but they might be starting with something else. Or they use Santa Cruz Museum of Natural History has great units for like native peoples or local animals. So there's different ways that families are using different curriculums. And There are a lot of families and groups that do, or something groups, but there are a couple of families that work together that do like thematic weeks or months. So they might be doing solar system, or one mom was like, I want my kids to understand nutrition. So we are looking at every label and we're talking about nutrition. So they did a whole unit on nutrition based on, study that for a month. We also have families who've done things that the kids are just interested in. Like we had one girl who was really interested in Amelia Earhart. She read all about her. She wrote about her. So we're connecting all that back to the standards. We had a 7th grade boy who wanted to build a computer, which was a huge project because his mom made a budget for it, acquire the parts, built the computer. And then we had him make a Google presentation, which he shared with the rest in our Google classroom about like how he did that and reflecting on like, what were the hard parts? When you take everything out of the box, like don't take everything out at once and lay it out. You should take out one section at a time because then you don't lose parts. So there's like lots of learning lessons like that. And so really non-traditional, but really reflective and writing about it as well. We also had literacy that we wanted to make sure everyone had access to books, like either library books, home libraries, public libraries, school libraries. They have access to RAS Kids and Epic Kids, which are online literature resources. And we did use Spelling City a little bit too for phonics and spelling. And we've had all kinds of really interesting ways that families have gone about their individualized learning plan. We also have one student who has been doing a little work experience at a local ice cream shop, learning how to organize. How do you memorize all the flavors? How do you know all the flavors? One girl's working at a farm with her dad, counting snails, watching plants grow, things that are seeds develop over time, doing predicting, measuring, and that type of work. And everything then gets tied back to our Common Core standards. And that's part of what Lori and I are doing each week. We're talking about where they are in the standards and what to do next. So.
All right, and on this slide, there is a link, and actually I've been asked to read it. It's a testimonial from a family who really felt it was important that their words be heard by our board. It says, we have 3 children enrolled in Opal Cliffs in grades 4th, 1st, and TK. As parents, we have really appreciated being able to incorporate a more interest-motivated learning structure. When our children express an interest in a particular subject, we are able to explore that subject together as a family while making sure each child takes away a learning experience in line with their grade level. Ms. Kearney has been instrumental in helping us incorporate creative ways to learn these subjects, and at the same time, make sure we are covering the state required standards for each of their grades. Learning this way allows us to take our classroom both inside and outside. Our kids have fun learning this way, and they commit things to memory on a very deep level. It also allows us to have a more individualized focus than they would have had in a normal classroom setting. We can learn from home, the forest, the beach, the zoo, museums, and other locations. As an example, my 4th grader, Ronan, loves to cook. Ms. Kearney helped us to incorporate various standards into this fun and important life skill. Another example, all of our kids have been collecting cans to take to the recycling center. During the process, they learn science, math, social studies, reading, and language arts, not to mention the life skills they are learning as well. Afterwards, my 4th and 1st graders wrote an informational essay on their experience. It is fun to watch how our children learn together, even though they are at 3 different ages. Our 4th and 1st graders naturally become teachers and tutors to our son in TK. Much of the time, our kids are surprised to know that what we are doing is part of school. We also appreciate having our kids with us during the best part of their day. Thank you so much for making this alternative schooling available to our family. In spite of the difficulties presented by the pandemic, our children have been able to thrive and have a very enjoyable learning experience. And that's from Julia Topping.
Thank you. And I think we're clicking down. Yeah. So each week, there's a weekly check-in meeting. So Lori or I meet with each family and their child each week. And it's a little bit different for each family. Sometimes with some of them, it's just the parent comes. For some of them, it's the parent and the child. And with some of them, for the older students, it's just the student that we work with in general. So we have a weekly check-in meeting, and we have an agenda where we continue to document what they're doing and connecting it back to the standards. We usually start with some sort of social emotional check-in just to see how they're doing. We use our mood meter often, or some other way to connect with them and see what's going on and make sure everything's going okay. Because as you could imagine, there's a lot of relationship structuring that has to go on when you go from being a parent all the time to being a parent, and now you're the teacher, so you don't have somebody else to say, hey, no, your teacher said you have to do this, so you need to get this done. So there's a lot of that, like, that juggling and learning those relationships as well, as I'm sure some of you have experienced this year too. So there's that piece. So it's time when we meet with them that we go over what they were been working on for the last week. We reflect on what they've done. Do they need to set new goals? And we usually end by setting new goals and making sure that we are tying back again to the standards. And we provide them some resources and or strategies and or maybe connections into ideas that other families have used or things that they've done. And then Lori was going to talk about this one. This is the continuous assessment of student learning. Can Lori?
So in addition to summative assessments, such as MAP testing, we have worked with families on formative assessments to check understanding and skill levels throughout the year. So this offers an opportunity to provide ongoing feedback to students and support for family teachers with adjusting instructional strategies as needed. It also allows for student reflection and self-assessment. Families have told us that these ongoing assessments have given them a solid framework, which has helped guide their teaching. So, we provide the state standards, and we have an I can checklist that goes for each of the standards that they could go through together as a family and check off what they've worked on, what they've mastered, and what they still could use some help working on. We've also taken out essential skills, just a summary of just a few essential skills in language arts and math. So they know, okay, what you really need to be solid on in third grade to move on to the next grade. And so we have put together many resources like that. So we have the project-based learning, and they're doing the instructional curriculum. And then they also have really appreciated having some kind of guide framework to work with. And I think next is a family, another testimonial, I believe next. So this is one of our second graders, Penelope, and her mom, Sarah. After struggling with distance learning last spring, here they are talking about how the flexibility and one-to-one teacher support through the weekly check-in meetings have helped Penelope thrive during this past year. She has also enjoyed connecting with other students through the daily afternoon check-ins, sharing what she has worked on during the day, and from time to time, showing us her wonderful artwork. Mom and daughter are seriously gifted artists. So here's Penelope and Sarah. And I clicked access, so hopefully this one works.
Melody has thrived more than she would have with the virtual platform. So we've been doing a lot of bookwork and a lot of reading and writing and projects, and she really likes the freedom to be able to do what she wants when she wants. She also stays up late at night, so she likes to wake up later in the afternoon. I feel like it's been a little more work for me, but I feel like me doing that extra work has really helped her thrive. And it's a bit for us. Our favorite part about the homeschool program probably is flexibility. Mine's the like 15 minutes on Fridays that we get to convene with our teacher, and then she tells us how we're doing and kind of assesses where we are in the beginning of second grade. Well, thank you. We love this.
All right, well, in addition to our weekly meetings, we have daily check-in. So every day, students have an opportunity to check in with us. So we have 2 slots each day. So there's one in the morning and one in the afternoon, and Lori or I host one or the other of those. And those are the opportunities for kids to come together, see each other, check in with us, tell us what they're doing, what they're working on. So we usually have some sort of connector, like we might do the mood meter there, or you see if there's like, what do you notice? We might have them kind of a math-based, like, what do you notice, or what do you wonder, or do you want to share? We kind of change it up, so there's doing something a little bit different every day. today I had planned for Earth Day, I had a picture of a landfill ready to go. And I was like, all right, what do you notice? What do you wonder? Thinking this, we could kind of maybe gesture towards a, Earth Day conversation, and you just don't know who's going to show up when, and it's just totally random. So I had a second grader, third grader, seventh grader, and a kindergartner. And this afternoon, and it went from one of them talking about the report on corgis to one of them talking about their report on snow monkeys then one of them had stitches out this morning. So then we went to stitches and injuries and stitches, and that rolled to I can't remember. Oh, then the kindergartner wanted to introduce her stuffed animal to my stuffed cat, which then everyone brought some sort of cat to the screen. So I mean, and that was the 15. It went past 15 minutes because it was too exciting. Cat Wednesday. So that's kind of the things I like cats. So you can see I made the cat chicken. And then while we were talking, I made one for the snow monkeys for next week. So I was like, well, we already have done the corgis, so I already had. Somebody did the corgi one. So we try to make it topical and tie in what they're working on as well in some ways. And it's also a really great opportunity for them to work on their SEL skills, their social emotional skills, because they have to listen. They have to look for an entry point in the conversation. All the things that we've all learned how to do on Zoom now, they have to do that there too. And some of them don't have a lot of classroom experience yet with like raise your hand, wait your turn, listen to what other people are saying. So it's a really good opportunity for that too. And I think Lori was going to tell us a little bit more, introduce one more parent.
So, and don't forget, we have the joke of the day morning sometimes too, which is pretty hilarious. So our next testimonial is from a kindergarten parent, Courtney, and Kai and Courtney are part of a pod with two other kindergarten families. This group has done an incredible job of giving their kids an enriching experience over the course of this school year. They alternate teaching days with two parents on and one off during the week. They each teach their specific subject specialties when it is their day to teach, including one dad who has done an impressive job modifying his teaching style as a college math professor to that of an engaging kindergarten teacher. This really is an exceptional group that has been a joy for Suzanne and I to work with. So here is Courtney.
Thank you. So we talked a little bit about looking to the future, that we want to continue with Opal Cliffs and offering an alternative that meets the needs of families in our district, or maybe families outside our district that find it interesting and intriguing. And we want to continue with having individualized learning plans where the family's at the center of the planning of the curriculum and the implementation of curriculum, and supporting them and offering different pathways to do that. So right now, one of the things that we're really interested in is project-based learning and kind of broadening that out a little bit. So right now, Lori and I are in the process of participating in a program to get certified as project-based learning teachers. And we have some project-based learning, but it's a very structured program that we're looking at, structured in the way that it has a format, but you can do it with anything. So it's really based on looking at a larger inquiry question, an authentic question that a student or a family might have, and investigating that and then tying it back to the standards. And in the end, it results in a public product or presentation. And it's, we've been listening to some of them, some are like looking at plastics and what impact plastics might have on your county. Or we watched one that was a group of second graders in San Jose that explored how to build a tiny house. And what did you need to do to build a tiny house? And so, they connected that all back to geometry and math and interviewing people. What would you want in a house? How much space would you need? And we also watched another one that was some high schoolers in Flint, Michigan, that we're looking for the best corrosive inhibitor to improve the water quality in Flint, Michigan. So those are some examples of projects that we're seeing that we would love to bring something like that as a focal point and as a highlight of something that we might be able to offer next year. So that project-based learning. And we also would look forward to next year, like maybe having more opportunities for students to work in clusters together. So either like a theme or grade level clusters. We're hoping that that might be a possibility when we're more in person next year. What's I gonna say about it? Continuing with integrating social emotional needs into our program and continuing just to build community and more of a community when we can be more in person, hopefully. And offering some enrichment activities like maybe gardening or art or science or things that kids could come together and do that we could do together and then let them branch out off on their own with it. So these are two of our Lori's.
Yeah, for our final testimonial, we have Courtney's son Kai in the yellow shirt and white hat, and Lucas, whose dad Jordan teaches math, and they're taking a break from their science lesson by the creek to let us know how they feel about Opal Cliffs, and we think that this really says it all.
Great. And do you have any questions for us? That's the culmination of our presentation for tonight. And we're ready to answer anything or listen to comments about anything.
Well, first of all, thank you for the presentation, and I forget the resources that our county has to offer. You mentioned a list of places to go, especially for learning. So, you know, that's a good reminder to have that how rich our county is really with the resources. And one thing is that you mentioned that they're able to pick a curriculum that's online. Is that something they pick themselves and it's approved by the teachers in the school, or is it or do they go from a list of items that they pick online?
I can answer that. What we did was we started with the California state standards and basically said, if there's something that you have found that matches those state standards, we'll vet them for you and we'll determine if they're a good fit. So Suzanne and Lori meet with those families weekly to determine whether that curriculum that they have selected is actually a curriculum that will get the students closer to mastery of the skills by year end. We don't give them a list. We give them lots of resources to select from. And what we find is that every family wants something different. So as long as it's been vetted by us and we know that they match the standards and the students can master those standards by the end of the year, then we help them interact with it through the weekly check-ins.
All right, thank you. All right, that's it with me. The other, I forgot to raise my hand, sorry. Anybody would like to jump in?
I'll go ahead. I'm just really excited about the program. So thanks for starting that. And just seems like there's so much excitement from the students' end, the parents' end, the teachers' end. So I think it's a great fit for our community. I wanted to know, I know that some students probably decided on that, or some families decided on that program because they didn't want to do so much computer-based learning. Are those families, for the most part, still sticking with it, or are they going back to their regular classroom?
We've had some students who have opted to go back to the classroom. I would say we've had 7 families go back to a traditional classroom. We've also opened the door to have 5 new families enter the program. So it's kind of number neutral in that way. We were really happy to be able to offer the opportunity for people to want to come in because we had really closed the door when we closed the door. Just as recently as this afternoon at 4 o'clock, I was talking to a family who's interested in her children attending for next year. And we're having that ongoing dialogue with families on a pretty regular basis, which caused us to actually create a new flyer about what Opal Cliffs will offer for next year. We have a sample of it for you. And it really will help educate our community about what this alternative education pathway can look like and does look like. What we found is that it doesn't look like anything else yet, which makes it sometimes easy to describe and sometimes difficult. When they say, is it like Ocean Alternative? No. Is it like, no, it's not like any of those things. It's like what we offer. And so we have found that we have a high level of interest in this community to have that flexible option, which is what we had hoped for. Like Scott has said many times, we hoped for 12 families and have had the opportunity to interact with 60. So it's just been something that was an unintended outcome of what we had planned for, but a really wonderful one.
And is 60 the maximum number, or could it expand if there was interest?
I think right now, in terms of like case management, and I hate to put it in like those kind of business terms, but for Suzanne and Lori to interact with families legitimately weekly, they max out about 22 to 24 because they have meetings with every kid, open every day, twice a day, plus weekly check-ins, plus matching resources, plus doing all those things. So for the staffing we have, the ideal number is about 40 to 45. Could we increase the staffing if there was a higher level of interest? Absolutely. We would just have to find a good fit. I can tell you, Suzanne and Lori work really hard, not harder or less hard than any other teacher in our district, a different kind of work, which requires you to be TK8 proficient in every content area in every standard. So, it's not a good fit for everyone, but I'm sure that we could find many teachers in our community that would be a good fit if we needed it.
I have to say, I have become very versatile at looking up standards for every grade level. And I used to be kind of nerdy and like to know like how they connected, but I really know now. I don't know the 8th grade math. I mean, I know what's in there, but I still go like, oh geez, hope you got something solid because it has opened my eyes to the whole spectrum of like where for everybody. I can see the commonalities though. That's the part that we can get, really pushed out. It's like evidence for your thinking is very important at every grade.
Thanks for the presentation. It was seamless. You kind of set us up for like, this could go crazy bad, but it was perfect. And this proves that you can be home if you need to be home or be like, that was amazing.
Thank you.
And so this was great. And so I think maybe two things is, trying to think back on when this program was being planned and the phase in and the, like how many students the first year and then of course, this past year has changed everything. So it would be interesting to do kind of just a number study and demographic study of who opted into the program this year. Like what was the draw, and then moving towards next year, who's continuing to stay. And so I would be interested in the student population, the families that are gravitating towards this program. And then how are you serving students with special needs, any students who receive special education services in the district?
So both of those are great questions. One is we'll do a demographic study when we come to the end of the year. We've done some preliminary data collection, and we've also asked parents for information from them, not just testimonials, but actually surveyed them about something. And so we're happy to report on that. We also have an interest. At first, it was a design around what may have been first responder families, who couldn't meet the time that distance learning was happening, but it morphed into some other things. With regard to students with IEPs, we've served a number of students with IEPs through the program. What is great is we're able to partner with their resident school, and we work directly with the case manager from that school. So every student who has an IEP has a case manager and can attend Opal Cliffs. They get their service minutes, they get all of the services that they would get in a typical school, but on a different schedule and in a different way.
And I would add that we've also in some ways, more than ever, been able to talk to the case manager. Like I would meet weekly, or not weekly, but every 2 weeks or every month with the case manager. And in some cases, like we had a behavior specialist who was working with one student that came to a series of meetings. So we would work together outside of the meeting to develop plans and strategies that might work for that student outside the meeting. I mean, I'll just say it, but because we could meet through Zoom and we had to find a time we could get together, and we actually had a more of a collaborative approach in some cases than I have in the past, I would even say. So we have been able to do that, and it was great in some ways because we could piggyback on each other in a really clear way. Like, hey, what are you guys working on in writing over there? All right, well, we're going to hit that over here. Oh, you're doing this in math? All right, I'm going to make sure I ask about that this week. So I would just add that. That part actually worked really well in a lot of cases. I mean, we had a handful, but it worked really well.
Yeah, if it's okay to add something to that, I had some students on my roster that we had to work with resource specialists and occupational therapists, and it was a circle of support. And it's been incredible working with the parents and hearing how they've talked about how their child has thrived through this year and through this individualized learning. It just has really, really worked for them. There was one family who the parents are both teachers. They had to go back, but their kids thrived. And one who needs extra support, they were just so grateful that Opal Cliffs was available to them, and they were very sad to leave, but the transition, we worked with their teacher and resource to try to make that transition smooth as possible going back. But it really was something to see how these kids thrived.
Thank you. Thanks for a great presentation too.
Yeah, you're welcome. Yeah, I don't have a specific question. I'm honestly blown away by how this level of service can be provided to so many kids by such a small but mighty team. It's astounding. It's so incredibly impressive, and I really look forward to hearing how things change as we do move back to being a little more in person, but now also all having a new skill set and new tools that we've acquired over the last year with more flexibility and all having the virtual options and programs and the like. So hi, Lori. It's great to have you there, and it's great to have you here. And I'm really excited for what we're doing now, and look forward to updates next year as well.
So thank you for starting the program. I have 3 questions. So can I get a copy of an ILP?
Yeah.
Okay,
We'll
so
give
that's
you
one.
Yes.
The second one is, will SBAC and local assessments be split out for this school? And will we get to see some of those this year?
The local assessments are going to be in place of all CASP in this district this year. And all of the students in Opal Cliffs have taken all of the district assessments along with the students in every other school this year as well. So you'll be able to see their data just like you would any other student in our district.
So it'll be broken out by that school?
Yes.
Okay. And then, so when we do SBAC, will SBAC be separate for that group?
It'll be administered in the same schedule and the same way, but it'll be for their school.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then can, at some point in time, can I get the presentation in a portrait mode? Because I can't read it sideways.
Oh, yeah.
That was just the way the PDF came out. We'll fix that.
Okay.
Send you a new version of it.
Every time I try to turn it,
Well, thank you, Suzanne, and thank you, Lori. It
Yeah,
was a
thank
great
you.
presentation.
All right. Well,
Sounds
thanks
a
for
great program.
Thank you for giving us the time. For dedication, and I always want to be active.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Never stop being.
Oh, my goodness. Okay.
what are we doing?
Maple red.
I would do this at home, but I can't move my neck.
You just take 3 deep breaths and the rest of us stand up for a minute, stretch. Just like kids, don't time sit there.
Thank you.
Suzanne.
Thank you, Suzanne.
That
Thank
was
you,
a
Lori.
gentle reminder.
The gentlest. Yeah.
Right. Gorgeous flyer, by the way.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Jessica did that?
All Jessica.
Nice.
Oh,
This
yes.
is beautiful.
I do have an artistic edge, dug really deep down there.
You know, but I mean, you gotta catch people's eye.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you. Let's move on to 5B, and that's Jessica with a discussion regarding updates on the local or LCAP.
Can I just ask if we had anything from the public on that one, Ted?
Pardon me?
Oh,
Any comments
Oh, yeah,
from the public?
Comment? Just-
thank you for bringing us back to that. I don't have anything on text for that one, but I do know that there was, and, you know, we need some flexibility with the timing, given the, you know, unusual hybrid format tonight. There was a request of public comment on an item not on the agenda through email.
Okay.
Is that okay?
Okay, say that again, I'm sorry.
So we're a little bit out of order, but there
Okay.
was a public comment
course.
request for an item not on the agenda. So
Okay.
can we go back to that?
Yeah,
now?
let's go back.
Okay,
Yeah, we
thank
will
you.
do that.
Thank you, President.
So
And
we'll
just-
make a note that before 5B, we're going to do a public comment that's not on the agenda. Okay,
And there's no public comment on this particular agenda item, just for
okay.
clarification.
Thank you for the reminder.
This says in, regarding the study on masks being ineffective. My computer isn't cooperating this evening, nor is YouTube on my phone. So can you please email me and let me know what steps the board will take in removing mask restrictions from students in light of the Stanford study?
Okay, and that's a comment. All right, thank you. All right, so with that, let's move to 5B now. Report on LCAP, Jessica.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm happy to be talking about the LCAP with the board. It seems like it's been such a long time since we've done an LCAP bite or anything directly related to the LCAP as a discussion matter. This is just a brief overview about the process. It's not a sampling of the LCAP as it exists. It's still being created. But as you know, in 2017, our last LCAP was approved by the board. It was a 3-year plan that ended in 2020. Well, we're not in 2020, we're in 2021 now. And due to the pandemic, there were some other kind of administrative requirements and state requirements that we were asked to perform. And one of them was a COVID-19 operations written report, and the other one was the learning continuity and attendance plan. And this board was able to see those plans, approve those plans, and those were definitely in response to the pandemic, but they were also in response to education in totality, but with specific attention to marginalized groups of students. Moving into this year, the LCAP begins again. There's a new template. We're working on the process. We've been working on the process since November. It will be another 3-year plan, which this board will see 2 times in June. First at the beginning of June for the first reading of the plans, and then again 2 weeks later for the second reading and hopefully approval of those plans. This 3-year plan, you know, we're taking very seriously. We're responding to a different time in the world. We're looking for some opportunity gains for students, not learning losses, but opportunity gains, and real strategic planning around those opportunity gains for our students. This year, we're looking at stakeholder engagement a bit differently. I included, just as a sample, a stakeholder engagement slideshow that we used earlier in the process to really talk about what the LCAP is, why stakeholder engagement is important. And then we also included some of the data that was collected up until that time from our families and from our staff. This year, all of the data collected and the processes involved will result in 6 reports to the board. And that's not typical, but those reports that will be presented to the board will be an expanded learning opportunities grant plan. That is something that's new. And that's something that Michelle and I are working on, and so happy to be working on it on behalf of our community. We're looking at the LCAP federal addendum. This year, we are looking at the LCFF budget overview for parents, which is not new, it's something that we've done in past years. And the local control accountability plan, which is something that you're familiar with, but will look a little bit different. This year, there's some different component parts based in some attending needs based in post-pandemic education. And then we will be looking at the annual update as well. So that's the 5th plan that you'll see at the beginning of June. And then the 6th plan that you'll see is the local indicator review and report. So there's a lot of things that are happening in what we used to call the accountability element of our work, but really it is the opportunity for us to plan based in hope for our future. And when we took a look at this as an opportunity, we looked at additional forms of engagement with our families. So we did a specific survey that was open-ended, and it was for very specified populations of our families and community. And then we also too did an additional open-ended inquiry from our staff to say, how well did we do? What could we do next? And really opened it like for all intents and purposes for anybody to tell us anything about how to improve and to kind of build into our students' future based on what we know now. There is a lot of hope, like you talked about earlier in the agenda tonight, and that is representative of what we're hearing from these data points. We're hearing there's excitement talking about the new science integration program. There's excitement about what we're doing with our English learner development teams. There's excitement about how we're engaging with English learner families. There's so many new things that are going on that we feel like this is the opportune time for us to highlight those in what used to be these accountability documents, but really are plans for hope today. So that's where we stand. And by June, and before June, you'll hear a little bit more about it, but by June, you'll see the finalized reports for all 6 of those. And that is it. Any questions or comments?
Did you say you're doing a new federal addendum?
We're there. That is part of one of the things that the board has to take a look at that we have to update.
Oh, okay.
Yes, that's not the most fun one out of all of them, but it is one that needs to be
done. Questions, comments?
Well, at one point, it might be helpful to, and I'm sure you'll do this down the line, but just like a really simple elementary bullet point list of these 6 different accountability tools, and just like a quick little reference guide for us almost in terms of which one is for which thing, if that makes sense. Because I have a feeling there are going to be a whole new set of acronyms that I have to learn. So just a little brief cheat sheet in a memo or in a Friday update or in a next presentation. I would really appreciate that.
And this is, like I said, a very, very, very brief update on process, but in the Friday update, I'm sure that we can definitely outline all of those, or in an upcoming board report if you'd rather.
Whatever you prefer is good with me. Thank you.
Okay, with that, is there any public comment?
There's nothing on text.
Nothing on email.
Okay, very good. All right, with that, we're done. Let's go to 5C, discussion regarding racial justice and educational equity. Scott.
Yeah, so it's a very unique time to have this item. It was just about a year ago that, of course, the district really dug in. Of course, we've always tried to be a district that embraces racial justice and educational equity. But it was the murder of George Floyd that spearheaded a deeper dive into that. And so, of course, in the news just yesterday, some sort of culmination of that tragic situation. And we continue on our quest to do our part in the world and our part in allowing our students to create a better world in this area. The main work is really now with the Racial Justice Task Force. Not that the rest of us don't have a big part in that, but they really are the group that is leading the charge. And we have 3 board members that sit in alternate settings on that team and have seen the work that's being done by the three committees, subcommittees, I should say, focusing on staffing, student discipline, and curriculum and instruction. Thankfully, we have three district liaisons, we're calling them, for staffing. Sandy Figueroa, our personnel coordinator, who is also on the task force, serves in that capacity. Jessica serves in that capacity for the curriculum and instruction team. And our director of student services, Eric Olson, serves as the district liaison for student discipline. There could be three more important topics for a district to consider. So we're really excited about how that work in the subcommittees will evolve into a district equity action plan that will help guide our district's work well into the future. And we have meetings coming up in May for all three groups, the task force, as well as our administrative team, and of course for this team here, the governance team. So the work continues, and really looking forward to the equity action plan that, you know, we'll have not only the plan, but I think with the three groups working in unison, a lot of foundational underpinning knowledge to help support that plan well into the future. So that's where we are with this initiative. We've called it out from the beginning of the year as the most important work that our district could do, not only this year, but moving forward. And I think that as challenging as it is to do this work right, I'm proud of the way we've gone about it. I hope you are too, and that we've stuck with it even through the most challenging times. We haven't lost it as a matter of focus. And that, again, this goal really was the most grassroots type of goal that we could have developed. It really stemmed from a district-wide request to make this our focus for the year. So with that, I'll turn it over to the board.
Any questions, comments from the board? Excuse me.
That was a nice overview.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And it's been good sharing the seat, because you've been to all of them meetings, right? So it's almost like missing one and then jumping in and seeing the progress that, because in a way I'm like, oh gosh, I'm gonna be lost. But when I jumped in the last meeting, although I've lost track of time, I think I went to the last one.
You went to the last one.
Okay,
yeah.
thank you for
Yeah.
reminding me. And there was so much, like, you can see the cohesion in the groups and the interest and the side work that's being done and the requests they're making for different reports. And it was like, it was good because like I saw lots of movement and things happening and just the rapport between the different groups. The traction and conversations was really noticeable for me in the last meeting.
Glad to hear that. And I did have a list of all the committee members. I'm glad you said that, Jen. It jogged my memory. A list of all the committee members are listed there because I can't tell you, you know, it's one thing to come to a meeting. It's one thing to be really present. And these parents and teachers and staff members, board members, you know, we use that word stakeholder a lot, but this is really a representative of members of the community that all have different stakes to make this district great and inclusive and, you know, one that embraces equity. And they come present, they come ready to and to discuss things that can take courage to discuss, things that can be emotional, but that's how we do the work, you know? And so I really just want to thank all of the members on that list because the meetings are at night, the meetings are not paid, you're not paid to attend, and people come because it's the right thing to do.
I'll just add on to that. And I think the saying that's often repeated with this is like, go slow to go fast or something along those lines, right? And just adding on to that appreciation, which was that the first half of the year, maybe even longer, was really a lot of establishing the foundation behind the work. And I know for me, I'll just only speak to myself, that it's hard not taking action and doing, right? And so again, also the patience and dedication of folks to, right, spend all the time reading, processing, discussing all of that foundational piece before really then getting into the work of diving into subcommittee work and asking for the reports and coming up with very specific ideas. That that can really be challenging. So I really appreciate, again, everyone just totally sticking with it, and being invested in the process. And, we're seeing from current events, not just around the country and the world, but in our own community, we are continuing to see issues around, hatred against folks for their racial and ethnic backgrounds. And so it just keeps highlighting the importance of doing the work and having long-term change. So thank you.
Yeah, just.
Yeah, thank you.
I just want to add a few things about the process that I saw. There's just, they really are not, there's no stone left unturned. They're really trying to look at everything from different angles, and it's just very specific steps that it's not just a random kind of patchwork. It's very step by step and specific and conscientious. And so I appreciate just being a fly in the wall while they're discussing and processing. It's been very interesting too.
So at some point in time, will we be looking at policy and ARs?
Yeah, that's one of the items that we're looking at. Is we do have an equity board policy. It's boilerplate. And so that could be one of the outcomes as the equity action plan, comes to fruition, is it could impact that policy for sure. Yeah.
And we, so board bylaws are separate from policy. So would it be prudent to put something in the bylaws? Because the policy is kind of like our hook to gamut and all that other stuff. The bylaws are kind of ours.
I couldn't agree more. I think it's a great idea. Jessica would like to make a comment.
Oh, yeah.
If you wouldn't mind.
I just wanted to speak to the organic nature of the work and the slow to go fast. One of the things that came out of one of the last subgroup meetings from the task force for the curriculum instruction group, we talked about culturally responsive education, and from their inquiry about how to get more support and how to do that differently in practice, that's when we built our partnership with the Santa Cruz and Silicon Valley New Teacher Project. And we also were able to acquire some culturally and linguistically responsive teaching resources that actually go with some really amazing curriculum for teachers to use in their classroom. And all of those have been curated by Shiroka Hawley. I don't know if you know who that is, but probably pretty world renowned in the area of culturally responsive education. And I feel like that group was really intentional with their request for support, very direct, and we were able to match their direct request to direct resource. So it's just amazing how that's happened, and it speaks to what you said.
Thanks for the follow-up. That's amazing connection.
Thank you. Okay, with that, is there any comments from the public?
Nothing on text.
Nothing on email.
Okay. All right, safe to say we move on to 5B. This is discussion regarding COVID-19 and gradually increasing in-person learning. Scott.
Well, there hasn't been much happening on this topic.
Yeah.
Has there?
Yeah.
Wow. So where do we start? This is one of the rare times we have 5 weeks between board meetings, and it couldn't have been a more interesting time. So here we are. We're at one of the key transition points of right between hybrid and full in-person learning. This week, we have all families have been offered the hybrid model. We're at about 15% of families that have chosen to stay in distance learning. That varies a little bit by school. It's just for curiosity's sake, it's very low at the Gardens, much lower than 15%, and a little higher at some of the other schools. But district-wide is 15% have chosen to stay in distance learning. At the same time that we fully rolled out our hybrid program, TK through second grade is now back full in-person learning, 5 days per week. Woohoo! And so that's obviously very exciting. This is all happening because things are trending in the right direction, obviously. COVID-19 metrics are turning in the right direction. The adjusted case rate, if I remember right from yesterday, is at 1.4. It was a time not too long ago that was in the 30s, even in the 70s, if I remember at one point. Anyway, much higher.
Right.
And so all the indicators that we're getting are that we have a very, very high chance of being in the yellow tier next week on Tuesday. And so things just continuously trend in the right direction for us. Of course, a couple of game changers were, as we've talked a lot about, is the access to vaccines, not only in the world and in our country, but in our county, which has an especially high vaccination rate, and the work that has been done to give access to educators early on in our county has made the large majority of our staff members fully vaccinated. Even some that weren't able to partake in the early rounds of the vaccination cycle for one reason or another have been able to partake in the opportunities that have been given in the last few weeks. So that number only keeps going up and up. Of course, the other game changer was both the CDC and the CDPH changing the social distancing requirements in classrooms from 6 feet to 3 feet. And when it was at a board meeting, our most recent board meeting, where serious discussion happened about that. And great leadership from the board level to give input about that. And then just 2 days later, CDC making it official, and then CDPH following up on a Saturday. And when the CDPH makes an announcement on a Saturday, that has meaning in and of itself. And so the message was clear from multiple levels to get on the horse and see if we could make it happen. And this is where I just want to give a big shout out to both of our unions, CSEA and SEA. Of course, the impact all across the schools, the biggest impact being in the classroom where the 3-foot rule applies. And so a lot of work went in collaboratively with our teachers union, SEA, to be able to come to an agreement that made everybody feel safe, but also pushed hard and fast on getting being able to commit to a schedule that gave parents and families enough advance about coming back fully in person 5 days a week. So I can't thank both associations enough, Presidents Corey and Gordon Barrett, and also a special shout out to Ann Wilson, who is the SEA's chief negotiator, played a key role. Many people played a key role, but those especially. And so that allowed us to get a schedule in place, get it out to the public. Very positive reaction from the majority of the feedback that we got. And so we are off and running on that. Just a couple of other things. I mentioned the yellow tier. Next week, we bring back the rest of the students fully in person, and that's all the way up through here, through 8th grade. And so a lot of work being done. It's been mentioned tonight. This little area in here on the weekend will be like a little factory putting together desks so that all the students can have an individual desk. So this is just one of those challenges that every corner of the organization has to pitch in and has pitched in to make a reality. We will continue to be vigilant about our mitigation strategies. And so this is one of those times, like, the messages don't let up. Like, just because we can bring back all of our students, we want to continue to have all of our students in person. And so that means masks, frequent hand washing, social distancing, all of those things can and will continue. Food services, just another part of the organization that's had to make real changes in the way they're doing things. So we have grab and go lunches set up, obviously for more and more students, so that they can we can make sure that our children have the nutrition that they need and deserve, while also trying to limit the amount of time that they might be eating together, which is, one of the activities that could spread the virus more than others. We've talked a lot about promotion ceremonies. We don't have anything written in stone yet, but we're keeping an eye on all the updates. Generally speaking, and again, I want to emphasize general because we'll get more precise plans, but generally speaking, what we're talking about is breaking up ceremonies. So we can have ceremonies, but breaking them up so there's not as many people in attendance. And also making sure that there's a limited number of family members that it can attend for let's say for an 8th grade promotion ceremony, giving a certain number of tickets, let's say 4, so that child can have 4 people come to the assembly or to the ceremony, but not more than that. So that way you limit the amount of people in attendance. So breaking them up into multiple ceremonies rather than one big one, and limiting the number of attendees per child. But we'll get more and more precise on that, and you will be updated, of course. A key component is childcare. From the very beginning, childcare has played a key role, and it has been one of the most complex parts of solving the puzzle of doing all these different schedules between distance learning and hybrid, and now fully in person. But fully in person for 4 hours a day. And it's 4 hours a day, of course, because teachers still have the major challenge of not only teaching their in-person students, but teaching their students that are staying distance learning. And as we've learned kind of from doing a hybrid board meeting, there's a lot of, a lot to consider when you're doing both of those things and trying to do them somewhat simultaneously. And so that's the reason for the shorter schedule. And our teachers are doing an admirable job meeting the needs of distance learners in varying ways, depending on the developmental level and the grade level of the student. And so, been mentioned before tonight, but the city of Capitola is stepping in with the after-school version of the out-of-school time on-site childcare for a very reasonable price. It just cannot be overstated what an important role that is playing in making this rollout of 5-day a week, but on a shorter daily schedule, palatable to some families who either have 2 working parents or a single parent or whatever the case may be. They need that afternoon childcare. Having it on site was not even something we expected. That would have been a pipe dream. And so when it was offered that could be a possibility, it was another game changer. So we were fortunate before COVID to have the after school program here from the city of Capitola. That always made sense to us. This is the school in Capitola, but when the rationale from the city of Capitola council and staff was, well, you know what, all of these students either feed into the district or they're our student in some way, shape, or form, whether the school is technically in Capitola, and rolled that out to the elementary schools. That was a big game changer, and again, just supports our families in a big way. So a lot of hope to capture the theme of the night. The data is moving in the right direction. Teachers and staff are making this work with many different types of schedules, but they're staying student-centered. They're being very realistic about, that was mentioned tonight, is bringing students back and realizing that while a lot of the academic learning had happened, a lot of the routines hadn't. So baking in those routines, it might feel like August and April, but doing all of those building school and classroom culture activities. So staff is being flexible and making it work. And then of course, the additional bonus of having childcare on site just made it even more workable. So I'm sure I missed a lot of points given this is momentous. I told the staff when we met today, I don't, because we're so in it, it's like a fish in water. Like, I don't think we realize how momentous this is, but we're doing it. And it moved very fast, but everybody just rolled with it. So I just really appreciate it. And we'll now turn it over to the board.
All right, any comments or questions on the road there? Bill?
I applaud you guys.
Definitely. Oh, yeah, very
That goes to everybody in the whole district. We just represent them.
The surveys, the town halls, the meetings, all of that stuff. I mean, I went to a meeting at the freaking classroom after that Saturday thing. And so all of that on top of running a school system, I just can't believe you guys were able to do it. So thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, it is quite amazing.
Well, yeah, and just the, the huge change between the last meeting and now, right? I mean, yeah, amazing, amazing flexibility and, from a personal level, my kids, for them getting back in, I mean, obviously I'm not the only one here who's got school age kids, but the joy in being back in person and, so some of mine did just fine and thrived, doing distance learning, but there's just nothing like the in-person experience. And I know that's been the driver behind all of this, but just being able to see that joy in with them is really rewarding. So thank you all.
Yeah, another thing that we might have to look at too is as we change tiers is how we hold the meetings as well too.
For sure. Yep.
So that could be, I guess, that could be next item or how, we, especially in yellow, if, if we're going to do the same format and have people in here, a certain number of people. So I guess something that we're going to have to look at as well too.
It's certainly connected, like we said tonight. We're
Yeah.
bringing back more students. We've started this process here. So having a limited number of folks from the public that would want to attend and gradually increasing it, just like we've gradually increased students, that seems logical to me.
Did we have any interest of the public attending tonight?
To be quite frank, we didn't offer the,
Okay.
like we.
Well, I know
since
we
we
didn't
knew we
offer,
weren't
but
going to
does
offer it, we
anybody
didn't
else-
ask.
I should say, did anybody ask? Okay,
No.
all right. Okay, anything else from?
I don't mean to repeat exactly what Amanda and Phil said, but yes,
Mhm.
I will repeat it. Thank you for everyone's flexibility. I know it just seemed like we almost skipped the stuff, but I think that's what was needed. So thank you for making it happen.
Okay, is there anything from the public regarding this?
Nothing on text.
Nothing on email.
Okay. With that, let's move on to 5E. This is discussing our board bylaw 9320, and it's coming back again. Scott.
Yes, so this is a second first reading.
Yeah.
And before I dive into the material,
Mhm.
on page 79, I think it's the second to last. This is page 79 of the docket. I think it's the second to last paragraph. It kind of has a place that cut off there after the word subject matter. There was an extra return where it goes to jurisdiction. So just formatting wise, that will be fixed.
Yeah.
What is
I
that
thought it was
about?
artistic. The way,
That's
the
right.
way the
yeah.
text.
Wanted a visual white space in
Yeah.
there. We'll make sure that gets fixed. So when I brought this last time, I did not do as good a job as I should have of clarifying how it interplays or doesn't interplay with the current virtual formats that we were in for board meetings. And so I'll start with that clarification, and kudos to Phil for making sure that this line was clearly drawn. So this board bylaw is intended to be ongoing and permanent, or as permanent as a board bylaw is. We update them every once in a while, but it's intended to guide us long-term, long after the direct impact of COVID-19 is done being felt. Of course, we are working under provisions that give us some flexibility under the Brown Act that we didn't normally have before because we couldn't meet in person. That's not what we're talking about here tonight. We're talking about a board bylaw that will impact us well after these temporary measures that we're working on are done. So I'm going to pause there and see if there's any questions about that. And Phil, if you have anything, if I didn't explain that just right, maybe you can help, because you really cleared me up on this.
The only thing I can say is that I suppose we should start thinking about the day that the emergency orders are lifted. So that's again another transition time, and so hopefully it'll give us a heads up.
Good point. Good point. So with that aside, and thinking of this, if you can just suspend COVID-19 for a minute and think about this board bylaw just moving forward in quote unquote normal times, there's really two main items that the update is intended to address. One is that meeting locations, as they're described in this board bylaw, can include teleconference locations. And then the second thing is that the interplay of board members and social media. It clarifies that board members can have conversations on social media that are open to the public, as they can engage in those as long as the conversations are not responding directly to each other about district business. So it can't be a platform where board members start exchanging direct communication, but that doesn't preclude a board member from engaging in social media in general. Well, those are really the two items that this board bylaw are intended to update.
Right, okay. Any questions on that? So basically in social media, you could discuss Dodgers and the Giants.
Or you
Yeah,
could,
but-
you
but
can
on the other
engage in
hand-
something that is, meatier than that. It's just you. And
What's
another-
more meatier than that?
Well, touche. Let's say the Braves, for example.
Oh, just kidding. Yeah.
But you couldn't engage in that that meatier topic directly with another board member, like basically using social media as an excuse to have a discussion you couldn't otherwise have.
Right, okay. And even in the CSBA conference that we had a couple of years ago, they even caution even liking or thumbs up to an item that is on the agenda. Because that could be perceived as an approval. So that came up with it too. So anything that's coming up on the agenda, and I know there's been announcements, hey, come to the meeting because we're going to discuss this, and other board members thumb up, then that could be perceived as not just a like, but an approval if it's an action item. Dun, dun, dun. All right, anybody have anything else on this here? Questions? Okay,
Good.
yeah, all right.
Bring that back in the consent agenda
Oh,
next time.
okay.
And I just want to give President Ted some kudos, because having those second readings in the consent agenda, I think, is a really nice way to handle second readings that are relatively uneventful. So this
Yeah.
one-
Yeah.
this one will come back in consent agenda.
And we can always pull on if we have to.
Yep.
So. All right, any comments, questions from the public?
Nothing on text.
Nothing on email.
Okay, very good.
No one on Zoom.
Oh, no,
It
no.
feels like the flow has been broken. We missed that point.
No,
Zoom and say
no.
no one on Zoom.
Hi, George back there.
There is no one on Zoom, sorry.
You're on Zoom.
We got our daily
Sure.
There we go. Okay, so 5F, let's move on, and this is regarding the board, our board self-evaluation process.
Yeah, so I think we're in a good groove with this. We've been using the CSBA board self-evaluation tool and planning to use that again. And in fact, it will be open up to you starting tomorrow. And it has a run going all the way through the end of the month, April 30th. And so there are some samples in there of what, just as a reminder of what that self-evaluation looks like and what it's intended to produce in terms of discussion points and everything. So see if there's any questions about doing this. I think it's either our third or fourth year doing this. So most of you, I think, have done it at least once.
Okay, any questions, comments? I mean, it's pretty much, the same as we did the last couple of years, like Scott said, and I had an email today regarding this, reminding to participate in it as well, too. Is there any, was there any caution or any questions about anything on here? I know last year we had a discussion about something that was on here, but I couldn't remember what it was. All right,
Nothing on text on this one.
Nothing on email.
okay, very good. All right, so we'll go on with our self-evaluation. And okay, 5G, this is regarding our superintendent's evaluation process.
All right, so kind of going right along with board self-evaluation, the board will also be conducting my evaluation. I have really appreciated in the 5 years that I've been here, the thoroughness that the board produces feedback for me, and also the clarity with which the process is delineated. So I certainly see no reason to change the process. It's been very informative for my professional growth. And so with that said, there's some outline of dates on the way that we have done that with this year's dates embedded. And so put it in shorthand, I produce a self-evaluation of the goals that have been in place for the year for me and produce those to the board by May 3rd. And so that way at the May 5th board meeting in a closed session, I can make a presentation based on that self-evaluation. And in the next couple of weeks, there is a process where individual board members prepare their evaluation of me, coming together at the May 19th board meeting in closed session, putting that all together, and then presenting that evaluation to me at the June 2nd board meeting. So that's the process we've used in the past, and that's what I propose we use this year.
So May 3rd is that the self-evaluation to the board is via email?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, anybody want to mix it up here?
I guess, I do want to mix it up. No, I just want to add something. I think, so we each do our own individual input, but I think it's helpful to then send it to Ted prior to May 19th, just so that it gets put into one cohesive document, or Carolyn, whoever's going to be kind of coordinating some of the logistics of when we work together. I think if we all just show up at the meeting with our own individual thing, then we lose some time in doing some really basic like cleanup, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think if we just give ourselves a deadline, and we don't have to do that right now, but we should kind of include that, like, we don't just turn it in
Good point.
the day we all get together.
It should say prior to May 19th. At some point.
Yes.
prior to May 19th.
Right, okay, so we're on the 3rd, okay. Okay, so prior to May 19th, each board member will have their input sent.
Yeah,
Right,
I think we
right.
should
Okay, yeah,
send it
that's-
to
that's
you
it,
by,
yeah. Mhm.
however many days ahead of time you think you need to put it into one Google Doc or whatever.
May 2nd.
Ouch.
Okay, I see. Well, yeah, okay, May 16th, yeah, as soon as possible. All right. Yeah, see
I'll
the,
put a suggested date in the Friday update, and I'm sure you guys can work flexibly around that.
That works for me.
okay, so then May 5th, we're gonna come in a closed session and then you do your presentation, okay? That's next meeting. All right, questions or comments? Any at all? I think it's pretty much the same as before, so. All right, any comments, questions from the public?
Nothing from text.
Nothing from email.
Okay. Okay, I think we got that there. Next one is 5H, and this is regarding renaming the field at SoCal Elementary School in honor of Mr. Don Myers. And Scott?
So as you all know, we lost a treasured member of our family, of our district family, Don Myers. The outpouring of support and stories could not be more touching. And we were able to publish a little memorial in the local paper, the Capitola SoCal Times. We've been in contact, as I've said, with Don's adult children to make sure that anything we do is, something that they sign off on, so to speak. And so, and as a district, there were a lot of suggestions. I just want to say how much I appreciate all of the suggestions, but also the understanding that there kind of needed to be a little bit of a time sensitivity, and also that not every single one of the suggestions could be honored. And so I just really appreciate that. And what we came to a decision on is because of Don's obviously meticulous care and love for the fields and of the school district, and also for his support of youth sports, that there would be no better honor than to name the track and field at SoCal Elementary in his honor. And again, I've talked with his family, and they're not only supportive of it, but touched by it. And so before I brought it to the board for an actual resolution, I wanted to allow you to process it with a discussion item and be able to discuss it a little in a little bit more general form to see how that sits and to get your input on it. And then if the discussion goes well, then I'll bring it as a resolution to the next board meeting so we can make it official and start the process of signage and that sort of thing. And so there wasn't a specific name that was suggested. Some real obvious ones, just very simple. It could be Myers Track and Field, Myers Field, Don Myers Track and Field, something along those lines. And so again, the idea is just to have something that represents what Don, how Don contributed to the district. And there's been so much work done on that field over there. I think it's just perfect. You know, we have the little jogging path around the track, around the field now. And of course, with the new building there and the heart of SoCal behind it, it just screams nature. It just screams kids and positive social activities. And what could be better way to memorialize him than that? I think it was a great suggestion, and that came from grassroots up, from that long string of emails and from lots of discussions. And so I'd like to kind of turn it over to the board, just get your thoughts, and maybe even if any of those names kind of set just right with you, one compared to the other.
The family, did they have any suggestions of a name they would like?
No. They were just, like I said,
Okay.
very supportive and appreciative that of the proposed honor.
Okay. All right. Any ideas down there? Down the line?
I love them all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Phil.
So a couple things. When we get to the green, can we have a ceremony or something, a naming ceremony out there on the green field?
We could even have it before the green.
Yeah.
So yes is the short answer. Depending on how the process goes time-wise, there could be even some other opportunities to do it. But yeah, I'll just say short answer, yes.
And then the second thing is, since you're looking for names, Don Myers Field of Dreams.
Yeah.
Nice.
One of my favorite movies.
Only one good idea a day.
Yeah, it's a great idea. I don't have a particular favorite name. They're all good, but I couldn't agree more in terms of this being a really fitting memorial, really to, again, tie in the youth sports and, the commitment to the keeping our field, our field thriving as much as possible, and then the beauty and nature right there with the new Heart of SoCal Park and that particular campus. It's a great spot.
Yeah, Don Myers, I thought of Myers Meadows, but it's going to be, it's going to be the sports field and the playground and the track. So it's going to be everything, but I always thought Myers Meadows would be kind of neat for that. And then Dawn and I always kind of joked about the Gophers, so maybe Myers Mound.
Yeah, we can do sign. Whatever, Myers, no Gophers allowed.
Yeah, that's right.
So are we gonna plant the lemon tree?
Are we gonna plant a lemon tree?
Yeah, a Myers lemon tree.
Well, it's funny you should say that, because that is also part of the process. We kind of bifurcated like two processes, one very formal and permanent and named and everything, but it was also another suggestion that came from this list of suggestions, and I'll give the shout out to the person who made it. It was science teacher Dean Cutter to plant a Myers lemon tree at each school. But as a living, memorial, to not name it and plaque it and everything, and to just let that kind of be our maybe subtle memory of those who knew Don versus the very public one of the field.
Yeah.
I like that.
Well, I will do a little work on batting around some names. Might bring you 2 or 3 options to consider.
What was the options you had again?
These are just like the most obvious ones, like Myers Track and Field, Myers Field, Don Myers Track and Field. Very straightforward. I wasn't trying to get creative. I was just wanting to make sure that his name was in there.
Well, definitely. I think Don Myers is a good one to put in there. Don Myers Field or Don Myers, however it flows, but to have him honored, I think would be try to incorporate his full name into it. But however it flows too.
I'm not gonna lie, the Field of Dreams has my attention.
Yeah.
It's the field and the sports thing all together.
Yeah. I think that's a good one, Phil. Are you gonna run this past the family too?
Yeah,
Or just kind
yes.
of get their input and
Yes.
I think that would be respectful to do that.
Absolutely. And
Too. And
we've been very mindful of keeping them in the loop, and
I think that's a good idea, Don Myers, and then underneath Field of Dreams.
I give up the copyright.
There you go.
all right. So
No, that's really
we'll
good.
bring forward a resolution at the next board meeting to make it official.
Okay, is there anything from the public regarding this?
Nothing on text.
Nothing on email.
And then if anything pops up in your head, like at midnight or 1 in the just jot it down. Or
Text me,
give
right?
Scott a call.
Call you up, right?
Sometimes, that just, something will come, well, that's me, I guess I should say. Bam, at 1 in the morning, it's like, oh, yeah.
Wow.
Kind of like George Costanza, hop on the plane and drive back, fly back to say that last word. All right, so that's great that, we're gonna have a resolution and especially in honor of Don Myers, who I've known for a long time, and I think we all have too, so. So let's move on to our action items. And so let's go with 6A, accepting Soquel's report annual fiscal audit for 1920, Michelle.
Yes, and budget comes at the end of the evening as always, because I know it's the best for last. This year, due to all things pandemic, the audit process was put on pause somewhat. They had an extension. Normally, our audit has to be completed by January 31st of every year and presented to the board by March. This year, it was extended to March 31st with a presentation to the board by May. So tonight, I'm presenting the 1920 audit year for the district. It's a 100-page document, and for some of our board members, they've seen it many times before. It basically lists the deficiencies and non-deficiencies within our practices within business and our auditing procedures in total. It talks about our general fund, our reserves, our fund balances, and just the basic health of the state of the district. It incorporates, there's some pretty significant changes from last year to this year, and those are surrounded by our capital assets accounts due to the completion of the bond sales, and then now having our new structures under our capital assets instead of work in progress. So I wanted to take, normally I don't, but just as before I get to the good stuff, which is page 199 of the docket, which is the findings, just to read a couple of things out of the docket itself. So this is the auditor's opinion. In planning and performing our audit of the financial statement, we considered the district's internal control over financial reporting, internal control, to determine that the audit procedures that are appropriate in the circumstances for the purpose of expressing our opinions on the financial statements, but not the purpose of expressing an opinion on the effectiveness of the district's internal control. Accordingly, we do not express an opinion on the effectiveness of the district's internal control. So what they're saying is that we are tested in many different ways. We're tested not only like basically ourselves, we have a test about we write down what our internal practices are within the business department and who oversees what and who there's a 2-person verification. And then they also do tests on all of our documents. They pull our payroll records, they pull our HR files, they pull they pull all of our purchasing documents to show that we're in compliance and accurately represent our funding. So that was their statement. And their conclusion is our consideration of internal control over financial reporting was for the limited purpose described in the paragraph of this section and was not designed to identify all deficiencies in internal control over financial reporting that might be material weaknesses or significant deficiencies. Given these limitations, during our audit, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls over financial reporting that we consider to be material weaknesses. However, material weaknesses may exist that have not been identified. So as they state, they monitor and they look at what we do, but they don't give us an opinion if they think we can do it better or differently, because every district has a unique style. One of ours being we're a very small district, and when you only have 3 people in your business department, it's kind of hard not to find ways to have somewhat the overlapping positions. So I just wanted to read that. I know it was a little bit long, but I'm very proud of our department and everything that we do and my staff, that we work very hard for as small as we are to make sure our internal controls are extremely tight and that we're on top of that. So that was just one little blurb. So like I said, now the good stuff, page 199 of the docket, our finding. So you will notice that our finding this year is the same as our finding was last year, is that our material, oh my gosh, it went right out of my head. I'm so sorry. Get back to the docket. Our instructional materials posting did not meet the 10-day deadline. It must be posted 10 full days, not business days, but 10 full days before the board meeting. And we only posted it 8 days before the meeting. So there's no working with the auditors on this particular kind of audit exception. It's a pretty black and white line. You either made the 10 days or you didn't make the 10 days. And it's not like some of the other things when we talk about like journal entries and purchasing and internal controls. This really is just not that. We did not make the deadline. We posted it late, so we have to take a finding for it. And the nice thing, as I told Scott, is what happened is once it was identified last year, the process had already completed for this year. By the time we found the audit finding from last year, we'd already identified it and corrected it for the current year, but it was already too late for 1920 and we missed it again. So the process that we had in place is what I developed and sent to the state and was accepted. I just sent it again this year. So there was one small lining in that. I didn't have to recreate the process. And we just have a double check process now to make sure that that's posted within 10 days. And that's our audit. So if anyone has any questions for me, I'd be always more than happy to talk about finances.
Down the road there, anybody? No, yeah.
If you had to have a finding, I would say this would be it.
This is yes, there's no financial impact. There's nothing to the district. It's like the auditor said, it just is what it is. And it's one of those things that it's the law, 10 days. And I have honestly never been able to really find out why it's 10 days. But it's just as far as that's the designated ed code statute.
Yeah, it's too bad that it falls in the audit, so that mistake falls in the audit, because you hear audit, you think finance, and this had nothing to do with the business department. Is really on me to make sure that got posted, and it definitely gets posted more than 10 days in advance now. So. I don't know why that falls in the fiscal audit, but we don't ask why.
Yeah, like I said, that one I'll never figure out.
Right, yeah, exactly.
I just want to add to also Siobhan and Associates have been our auditors now going on 8 years. I very much like working with them. They're a great auditing firm. They specialize in school districts and municipalities. So they're very well versed in what it means to be an accountant in the real world and what it means to be an accountant for a school district, because there's nothing that about that is the same. And so you want to really be able to work with people that understand school district finances.
So an audit is like SBAC for the district. And so back in the day, they would just look at debits and credits. The posting date is definitely not a debit or a credit. And it just goes to show you now how the audit process is just kind of like an amoeba spread out to cover so many different things. And our staff hasn't grown to, cover all of those things. So, hats off to you. It's not a material finding to me. And if it's the same as last year, then guess what? You're consistent. And so that doesn't really point to something, weird. So congratulations.
Yes.
Okay, anybody else down
Just thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
It's going to
Not
be
easy
interesting
job.
this year. I've already been in contact with our auditors repeatedly. The main thing this year is because our ADA is not what's driving our revenue this year because we're held harmless, but attendance is still required to be taken, but in a different manner. So the engagement tracker is really what drives this whole audit process this year. And so that we're just starting that process with them now, giving them the documentation, and they're going to start their reviews. So, and with, not us being unique, but many districts changing from full distance, hybrid, back, instructional minutes, like how much of that plays into what part of the audit, how much they audit that, So I'm actually really looking forward to the audit this year because it will be different.
And I would urge the members of the board, for something exciting, go through that MD&A. I mean, that's gripping.
Come on, Phil, the whole 100 pages is gripping. Like I read it, back to back.
You got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's it. Any comments before we do a motion, anything from the public?
Nothing on text.
Nothing on email.
Is there a motion to accept SoCal Union Elementary School District's report annual fiscal audit for 1920?
I
Bill
move.
first, makes a motion. Jen second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. And let's move on to 6B. This is a resolution proclaiming the week of May 3rd and 14th as Employee Appreciation Week. Scott?
Well, there has never been a year to show our appreciation more than this year, that's for sure. And so,
Definitely.
one of the things I really appreciated when I came to this district, I inherited this process that kind of treats all school employees as teachers and says that we're going to appreciate all of our employees regardless of their role in the district during this time. It's great to see what the home and school clubs do for all the employees. It's great to see the board has traditionally done some fruit baskets, which I think are a great show of appreciation, a healthy show of appreciation. We weren't able to do that last year, if you remember. We dabbled into, God, I just forgot the name of the program. Jessica will know. Flipgrid, thank you. We dabbled into a Flipgrid showing of appreciation, and we could certainly do something like that again, in addition to the traditional fruit baskets, combining the best of the old and the new, as we're trying to do in many capacities. But I think it's just going to be very nice to express how much we appreciate our staff and what has, I think we can all agree, been one of the most challenging years ever. So May 3rd through the 14th would be the same pattern and tradition that we've used in previous years. And so see if there's any questions about that.
Questions, comments, or?
No, I love the idea of doing a Flipgrid and something physical that whether it's fruit or something like that, but doing both is great. I agree.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, a lot of work this year, last year too. So here we have this, and then once, if it's approved, or I'm sure it's going to get approved, post it somewhere where everybody could see it. that is, it is a bunch of whereases, but it's our true appreciation of our district and what they've done for our students. And with that, is there comments or questions?
Nothing on text.
Nothing on email.
Okay. If there's nothing more to discuss, is there a motion on the floor to definitely approve the resolution to proclaim the week of May 3rd, May 14th, 2021 as SUESD Employee Appreciation Week?
I'll make that motion.
Amanda first.
I'll second.
Carolyn second. And this is a roll call.
Yes, it is. So trustee Rodriguez.
Aye.
Trustee Jackson Miller.
Aye.
Trustee Izan Gonzalez.
Aye.
Trustee Friedman.
Aye.
Trustee Donnelly.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And with that, let's move on to correspondence. Anybody have any correspondence they'd like to share? I was just going, when we're talking about Don Myers, there was something on Nextdoor that somebody wrote about him. I'm not sure if you saw it or not, but if you haven't, I'll just text you guys. I thought I did a snapshot of it and I wanted to share it, but I couldn't find it. So it was quite lovely. Okay, with that, any future agenda items you'd like to come forward? Okay. With that, is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make.
And-
Second, Carolyn.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, hey guys, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, he's back in the
Thanks
room
for
back
the
there.
man behind the curtain.
Yeah.
We got the Wizard of Oz.